So you thinking about jumping into California real estate? Awesome choice. It's a great field, but let's be real. Figuring out how to get licensed can feel like trying to solve a puzzle in the dark. But don't you worry, we're going to light the way. Think of this as your personal roadmap to getting, and just as importantly, keeping your California real estate license.
All right, so you're ready to get started? Perfect. Let's dive right in and talk about the very first step on this journey, the one every single agent has to take.
Okay, so first things first. Your journey into the world of California real estate kicks off with what's called the salesperson license. You can basically think of this as your golden ticket, right? It's the absolute foundation you need before you can legally help a single person buy or sell a home.
Now, the path to getting that license is actually pretty clear-cut. It's really a three-step dance. First, you've got to take a specific course. Second, you apply for and, of course, pass the state exam. And third, boom, you get your license, which is good for 4 years. So let's zoom in on that very first step, the coursework.
So before you even dream of sitting for that salesperson exam, there's a hurdle you have to clear. You've got to complete a very specific 3-unit course called Real Estate Principles. And listen, the state is super serious about this. It has to be from what they call an accredited institution. They want to make sure you're learning the ropes from a legit source.
But wait, there are a couple of ways out of this requirement. Think of it as a little loophole. If you're already a member of the California State Bar, a lawyer, the state basically says, okay, you probably know your stuff when it comes to legal principles, and they'll waive it for you. Same deal if you've done some other coursework that the commissioner looks at and says, yep, that's good enough.
All right, so you've passed the exam, you've met all the requirements, and congratulations, you are officially a licensed salesperson. Now, this isn't something you have to worry about every year. Your initial license is good for a full 4 years. That's a nice long runway before you have to even think about renewing. So after you've been a salesperson for a while, you might start getting that itch, right? You're thinking, okay, what's the next level? Well, that next level is becoming a broker. This is a huge step up. We're talking about being able to run your own brokerage. But, as you can probably guess, the requirements to get there are a whole lot tougher. So what's the main thing separating a salesperson from a broker? I can tell you in one word: experience. See, for a salesperson license, you can be brand new, fresh off the street. But to become a broker? Oh no. You've got to prove you've been in the trenches, that you've actually done the work.
So just how much experience are we talking about here? Well, the rule is pretty specific. You need to have held your salesperson license and been actively working in real estate for at least 2 years within the last 5 years before you apply. So you have to show recent, relevant experience.
Okay, but what if your background is more academic? What if you went to college for this stuff? Well, there's good news. There's another way. The state might actually let you skip that 2-year experience rule if you have a 4-year degree with a major or a special focus in real estate. So your education can count for that experience.
But it's not just about the time you've put in. Aspiring brokers have a much heavier load of coursework to get through. I mean, to even qualify to take the broker exam, you have to knock out a whole list of advanced courses. So let's break down what that looks like.
All right, so every single person who wants to be a broker has to take these 5 core courses. These are the absolute non-negotiables, the bedrock of a broker's knowledge. We're talking practice, legal aspects, appraisal, financing, and then either economics or accounting. The goal here is to make sure you've got a really deep, solid foundation to deal with the trickier stuff.
And after you've got those 5 mandatory courses down, you get to choose 3 more. These are your electives, and you pick them from a pretty long list. This is your chance to kind of specialize, So if you're into property management or business law, you can lean into that.
Now, just like with a salesperson course, where you take these broker classes is a huge deal. You can't just go anywhere. The state has a very strict definition of an accredited institution. We're talking about a college or university that the U.S. Department of Education recognizes, or a private school that has proven its curriculum is just as good.
Getting your license, whether it's for a salesperson or a broker, is a massive win. But here's the thing. It's not a one-and-done situation. It's more like a subscription you have to keep active. And the way you do that is through continuing education. So you might be asking, why do I have to keep taking classes? Isn't it just busy work? And the answer is a definite no. The law is actually super clear about this. It's all about protecting us, the public. It ensures that the professionals we're trusting with our biggest investments are totally up to date on everything.
Okay, so what's the magic number you need to remember? It's 45.
Every 4 years, to renew your license, you need to complete 45 hours of approved continuing education, and that goes for both salespersons and brokers once they're past that first renewal period.
But hold on, it's not just any 45 hours. You can't just take a 45-hour course on, I don't know, underwater basket weaving and call it a day. Nope, the state has a very specific breakdown to make sure you're staying sharp on the topics that matter most. Let's get into what that actually looks like.
As you can see, this is really structured. You've got 12 hours that are completely locked in on course subjects. That's 3 hours each for ethics, agency, trust funds, and fair housing. Then there's a big 18-hour chunk that has to be all about consumer protection. The final 15 hours, that's where you get a little freedom to choose from general electives.
And you do not want to mess this up because the consequences are serious. If you don't get those 45 hours done on time, your license just expires. It's gone, and you are legally out of business until you complete all the requirements and get it reactivated. So it's a pretty big deal.
Okay, so we've laid out the rules that apply to pretty much everyone. But there's one more thing. A little-known exemption, kind of an insider tip that's reserved for the true veterans of the industry. It's the state's way of giving a nod to a long and successful career.
So how do you qualify for this special exemption? It's a two-part test, and you have to meet both conditions. First, you need 30-plus continuous years as a licensee in good standing. And second, you have to be 70 years old or more. If you can check both of those boxes, then congratulations, you no longer have to worry about that 45-hour renewal requirement.
And there you have it, the full roadmap, from that very first real estate principles class to leveling up as a broker and all the way to a potential exemption after decades in the business. The path is all laid out for you. So, I guess the only question left to ask is, what's your next move?